Hi. Okay, so this is my reflection number four. All right, number one, what does Grant mean by horizontal hostility? Give one example from the book and one from your own experience. Okay, so horizontal hostility is the process of understanding how common goals can be what drive groups apart instead of uniting them. And an example of this from the book is on the Miss America thing when the lady who won Miss America, she was deaf, and instead of getting support by those who were deaf, she actually ended up getting hate and protest by them because she spoke verbally instead of using sign language. So I guess they kind of felt offended or something since she wasn't deaf enough. I can relate to this a lot because my mom is Colombian and my dad's white, but I can still speak fluent Spanish, and it can be either when I'm working or just at school or something. I can tell that a Hispanic person is having difficulty speaking English, then I'll just go ahead and speak Spanish because I speak it fluently, so I don't really mind. But sometimes when I do it, people get really offended or they're rude or something because it's they think why are you speaking Spanish to me you're blonde, it's basically you're not Spanish enough. So I've been dealing with that my whole life, so I can 100% understand why that's a thing. All right. Number two, Grant argues that transparency is not always the best policy, and that enemies make better allies than frenemies. Do you agree with any of these two arguments? Why or why not? Okay. So with transparency, I agree with it, but to some point because I do think that when you're being on, you should always be honest with someone. I'm a person who's very upfront. I don't hiding things. But I'll express how I feel. But at the same time, it goes to a certain extent because you don't want to shoot someone down. If for example I was a teacher and someone comes up to me with an idea, I'm not gonna shoot it down because there's been so many different people with great ideas, people the guy Steve Jobs, or anyone who had a great idea. The people who shot them down it lowers your self esteem. You shouldn't always even if you think something's terrible, you shouldn't be as transparent as you think because it can just hurt people's feelings and just come out the wrong way. And then with the second one, that enemies make better allies than frenemies. I do agree with this because with enemies, you know where you stand with someone, and oh, okay, we don't like each other for this reasons, or these are this is there's no gray. It's either black or white. But with frenemies, it's kind of you're being a little more I want to say fake, because you're pretending to be friends with your enemies, and that you don't know they could backstab you, and that they could probably honestly cause you more problems than not interacting with them at all. Okay, and then with number three, reflect on two ideas not discussed above from the chapter that stood out to you. Okay, so two ideas was that on page 122, with tempered radicals, there's Lady Meredith Perry, and how she basically was saying she wanted to create wireless power. So with that, she needed investors for this prototype, and she would ask around and say hey, I need investors for this prototype. But she was getting a lot of failures the first time around compared to when she tried the second time around. And the difference was that she stopped telling experts what it was that she wanted, what she was trying to create wireless power, and instead she started providing the specifics of the technology that she wanted to help her build through it. And so, quote unquote, according to page 124, Meredith Perry was a tempered radical because she made an implausible idea plausible by obscuring its most extreme feature. Okay? And then the second idea is found on page 134, where it says, the idea that something familiar makes the heart grow fonder. And then an example from this is when they were producing The Lion King, it almost didn't happen because they said that it was basically Bambi with lions. And as they were looking at the movie, they kept trying to compare different things, being oh no, it's this, it's that. And then when someone looked into it, they're oh, this actually looks like Hamlet a lot because the whole father thing. And then that everyone was oh, you're right, it does look like Hamlet. And since Hamlet was something that so many people know, it's so familiar, they were oh, this can work. So with that, they were able to use that recognized idea to create this new idea where they were able to create the Lion King to be similar to Hamlet but different enough where it wasn't as much of a spin-off. And this basically led the idea of the Lion King to becoming very successful, gaining over $1 billion in revenue, which makes sense because when you the more familiar you are with something, the more you're going to like it. And then for the first question, just by the way, that's going to be found on page 1717 for the reference of when the American Idol queen was like crowned. All right, there you go. Thank you so much. Bye.